A very good morning back again to the Palamala viewers. We have someone very special on set today. I would say we could call a legend, in fact. Let me tell you a very small intro about him. He is an internationally known figure who has taken our country, our motherland, to a next step, face the international level. He is also popularly known as Sarase, which is also, he is an individual himself who has carrying an enormous history with a very long and successful story. This is no other than Dr. Sarat Chandra Seneviratne. Good morning, Doctor.
Very good morning to you, lady. Yeah.
How are you doing today?
So far, so good.
Okay, so let me start up by saying a journey of 1,000 miles start with a single step. Our viewers would like to know how your journey started.
Well, this year I'm celebrating my 50th Golden Jubilee in mass media. So I've been out of the country when I was 20 years old. And since then I was globe trotting and finally worked and lived in 15 over countries and picked up Hong Kong as well as US as my safe havens, sort of. So time to time I used to come on the invitation of the politicians in Sri Lanka to work very closely. But ultimately I get disgusted and getting back. And this could be my final last show in Sri Lanka. And I don't have any intention of coming back because I was thoroughly disappointed right throughout whenever that I come. The disappointments are so big, massive. So why should I mean, the appreciation comes from the rest of the world, especially the developed countries. And if you can meet the president or any other ministers, when you come to your motherland, what is the use? I mean, I've been using my talent as a political analyst as well as political cartoonist right throughout my career. And it's easy for me to meet Tony Blair and Bill Clinton within say 15 minutes. I can meet them face to face, rather than it's difficult for me to meet my own people, which I should say a pathetic kind of situation in Sri Lanka.
I see. If I could tell something like this to you, leaving Sri Lanka has been a blessing in disguise.
Exactly.
Am I right?
It is. You are indeed. That is the word that I use. It's a blessing in disguise. It's a God-given kind of talent that I've been pushed by the Lord God to serve the humankind. And I'm very straightforward. I do not want to call myself a Sri Lankan because I'm a Christian, and I call myself a human being from this global village. And I can serve, whenever that I can serve the humankind, that's a privilege, and I do that. And I don't segregate anybody or segregate any country, saying, oh, we are Sri Lankans, we are Indians, we are Pakistanis, we are... So many people are asking me whether I'm a guy from Ethiopia. So I used to say, I'm an Ethiopian. Of course, yes. Say, what's wrong with that? So like that, or maybe from United States. But of course, when I open my mouth, that they know that I'm an Asian origin kind of a personality because of my pronunciation, probably, But by the looks, of course, I really do look like an Afro-American kind of guy. I mean, I had curly hair. I lost a lot of hair because of politicians in this country.
Talking about that, one person with so much motivation, who's gone through a lot and is a very successful person right now, could you tell us what is special in this person? Like, how can one person go through all this, get so motivated and reach a place like this?
Well, to be frank with you, because personalities are personalities. I cannot sort of say this personality is much more neater and nicer than other personality, because we are human beings. The tendencies are there to sort of do wrong things as well as good things in this world. That's why we call ourselves human beings. But that doesn't mean to say that you have to correct yourself. I mean, the tendency is there to do wrong things much more than
Right thing.
right things. So what I could say is at least you should be able to sort of adjust those things and do serve your people and do serve your country without being very hypocritical as well as selfish.
Definitely.
So, but I found out that most of the Brits are into politics are very genuine. The last governor of Hong Kong, Chris Patten, is a very close friend of mine, a family friend. He became a family friend as well. And I used to criticize him. I mean, not forgetting Bill Clinton with Monica Lewinsky's thing, the scandal, that he visited, he paid a visit to Hong Kong on his way to China for the first time, his first tour to China. I met him and I interviewed him and I gave a book of caricatures which I have done for the Hong Kong Standard as a political cartoonist. So he was very pleased. I've done a lot of gruesome kind of pictures of Monica Lewinsky on his lap, So he giggled and he said, wonderful, wonderful. This is the kind of stuff that I would love to. I prefer to see this kind of stuff rather than political stuff, So, I mean, these are genuine personalities, You should appreciate this kind of personalities, which I really do admire him. And he has given me a lot of inspiration rather than inspiration given by the local politicians here. Sorry to say that.
Speaking about that, we are going to talk about the magazine Witty Weekend. I don't have to explain much. It's one of the best international magazines, including all categories, especially it's politics, world-class economical, entertainment for all age groups. Could you brief us a little bit about the magazine?
Actually, I was invited by, I don't want to mention that gentleman's name, he's a minister here. And I'm grateful to him because when I was in Brazil, I was on a project. Actually, I became the president of the Arts Council there. That's quite amazing. So when I was there doing the kind of, because Witty Weekend was meant for to be in Portuguese. So then this gentleman called me and said, Sarah, this is the time for you to come and launch this magazine in Colombo.
Yes, we are actually seeing the articles. Yes, you can continue.
So he paved the way for me to come, and then I should say one of my friends, colleague earlier, Mr. Nalin Jayatilaka, who was the CEO of a media company, sort of he mingled with me. So we launched this magazine in 2015. So it was a grand and great launch in Colombo. So we covered actually 130 over countries, and my Hong Kong sector, of course, I have my own media institution in Hong Kong as well as my first gallery in Hong Kong, my international gallery that is in the heart of Hong Kong. I'm proud to say that I am the only Sri Lankan who has an international gallery in Hong Kong. But of course, I had a lot of difficulties, the financial side as well as things. But the recognition was there, much more greater than any other country. And the next was the United States and London. So I became the multimedia consultant for the British pub organization, Bull and Bear and the rest. Everybody knows about it. And I've got a Chinese name. I work for the Chinese press as well. I'm the only alien who cannot understand or write any Chinese name.
I was just going to ask that.
Yeah, actually. But few say Tinji Bo Yao. So Tinji Bo Yavle means God bless you. That's the only word that I know. And say, oh, Chosan, and don't you know, and little words that I can. And also the Filipino community also there. A marvelous kind of cosmopolitan city, Hong Kong is. Much more better and bigger and very broad-minded kind of thinking. And the politicians, of course, they walk on the street. No bodyguards, no other vehicles at all. And they mingle with the normal people because I think they are very transparent. So the transparency for the political system should be there, even in Sri Lanka. If you have been elected by the people, the commoners from this island, so why can't you mingle with them? It's so scary. But of course, when the next election comes, you go and sort of hug little children and say, oh, my darling, and all that. And then when you try to see them, you have to get, my God, you won't be able to see them again. So that's the kind of nature that Sri Lanka has. So that kind of prevailing situation has to be changed. You know that?
Yes.
So I do not want to be a hypocrite. I don't want to I am not attached to any party or any politician in the world. So I am by myself,
Yes.
self-made creature who try to get things done before I die. I'm 65 years old, and this is my 50th year in mass media. Started when I was started. Of course, I started at the Davasa Group, that's independent newspapers, with my very first editor, Rex De Silva. Unfortunately, he passed away few months ago. And then with Iqbal Altas, Lasantha Vikramadunga. I'm proud to say that I've come across and I've done a lot of work with D.B. Nihal Singh's father. And Gunadas Amarasekar, the top-notch journalists that I have mingled and worked with. And they appreciated my work very much.
Yes, since we actually spoke about this magazine, it's a small question that I would like to ask.
Yes.
Why is Witty Weekend? How could we differentiate Witty Weekender from the other magazines available in the
Well,
market?
that's a good question. I really do appreciate you asking this question because, say, for 7 days, out of 7 days that you work 5 days with lot of difficulties, with lot of stories coming in, disturbing news, the rapes and all kinds of stuff, three-wheel guys trying to rape some US women, all kinds of bloody stories, weird stories. And you cannot have these stories, you don't like to see these gruesome stories over and over again. Say after Friday, you want to get into the weekend kind of, and you want to mingle with your friends and say hi, bye, and and having a gala time. So what I'm saying is, that's why I produce this Witty Weekender at the end of the day, at the end of the week, that you have something to giggle around, that you have something to appreciate and to laugh around. Let's say rib-tickling cartoons and all that, that you have these caricatures and things like that, the politicians, and also I should say the celebrities, the gossips. Of course, you love to have this from page 1 to the last page, that you have something to admire and talk about and to giggle around and say, what kind of nonsense that these guys are saying, and don't you know, and there's no gruesome stories whatsoever. So which one you prefer? To have this kind of witty, humorous kind of literature, or the gruesome stories about the rapes, about the floods, about these hot air, and what do you
the
like?
depressing life gets depressed some more.
Exactly. You get depressed more.
Yes.
So
we
this is the
definitely
only
do.
magazine which is available, and I insist. We have lot of difficulties even now. Man, how many times did I launch this magazine? Over and over again. This is my 3rd issue, and with the 3rd issue, but I'm happy to say that I've got a fantastic minister being appointed as the media minister, is Mr. Mangala. He's a very jovial person, and also he understands the humor. So that is the kind of personalities that we need in this system, not these fellows. But of course, I insist that all these politicians should be graduates.
Yes.
So that's
Keeping
it.
that on mind, we have much more to talk with Dr. Sarat Chandra Senviratna himself. We're going for a short commercial break, and let's be back. Welcome back to Palamala. Like I told you before, we are here with a legend. We're talking to someone who is celebrating his 50th year in the mass media. This is a publisher, at times a creative director, a controversial political analyst, award-winning political editor, and a political cartoonist outside Sri Lanka. I would like to say, what is the message Dr. Yu would like to give to the youngsters watching the program today?
Well, to be frank with you, that you have to be true to yourself, and don't go after anybody saying sir, and don't I need this, I need that, and all that. And and be controversial also, be true to yourself, and use your talents, because to be frank with you, I'm not going to end up my journey just because of I'm 65. Until I drop dead, I'm going to change the world, and probably I might become another, as the foreigners want me to say, another Pablo Picasso. So that's why I want to use this word, the grotesque.
Yes.
The grotesque is an art form which I have invented from the age 15 onwards. And I didn't know that there is a word called grotesque in this world until I went to Rome and embarked on this journey in the European sector. And from Roman cathedrals right up to Nepal, because I was a consultant appointed by the Freedom Forum in Washington, D.C. to be the advisor and the media consultant for the entire Nepal Press Institute, where I should say that my counterpart was Manisha Koirala. And I was there for about 8.5 months. Then I went into the Hindu Kovils. There is in Kathmandu, there is a different kind of place for that. And I found out that gruesome and horrid kind of sculptures and the art form was there before the birth of Jesus Christ and Lord Buddha. So it was an art. It was an art, and of course it was brought by Francis Bacon in 1515, and then Leonardo da Vinci, the Pablo Picasso, and then Salvatore Dali in South America, where I will end up my life over there. And then and then the modern personalities, Manuel Rubio, who was my colleague, who is my colleague, I'm sorry. So he's from Philippines, and Noel de Guzman. So these two gentlemen from Hong Kong, they are from Philippines. So they are legendary kind of personalities who are into commercial as well as fine arts. So with them that I'm going to have my exhibition before December in the heart of Hong Kong, and also in United States at the Queen's Theatre of the Park, that's the heart of New York. And then getting back to my favorite place now is Rio.
Rio.
So that's the place that I enjoy to move with gals and boys. So that's a beautiful place.
Yes. Speaking about that, I would also like to ask you, can we call you one of the youngest consultants to manually design graphics in newspapers in Sri Lanka?
Exactly, you are right. Because I'm the one who, because it was the President J.R. Jayawardena's invitation when I met him and when I interviewed him when I was in Singapore for Straits Times as a consultant. So I got a very bad kind of hepatitis at that time. So he asked me, Mr. Senararatne, why don't you come and serve the country now? It's high time. So then I said, when do you want me to come? Any time. So then he appointed me as a consultant for the Lake House. At that time, the Lake House newspapers was not doing well. And it's a government-owned newspaper. So then with my graphics, that was we had never heard of compute at that time, you know.
Yes.
So that is the time that I created what you call the graphics and all that for newspapers in Europe, including some of those French newspapers as well. So then I found out, and then the Asian sector, the Straits Times dragged me